The Cluninfo is a public affairs presentation of 94.1, 620 KHB, 97.5, 770 KFB, 810 WEDO, and 103 KVE.
The Clunin File. I'm Pat Clunin, opening the book on matters of public interest in Pittsburgh's southeastern suburbs. My guests today are Richard Livingston, president of the Clairton City School District's Board of Directors, and John Lydon, CEO of Auberle, a McKeesport faith-based agency that works with troubled children and adults. As we record this edition, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is digesting Governor Tom Wolf's second state budget proposal, totaling more than $32 billion, as released by his office Tuesday. It was not released as ordinarily would be the case to a joint session of the General Assembly in Harrisburg. Rather, in what was termed a State of the Commonwealth speech, the governor reminded lawmakers of a continued impasse over the budget he proposed 11 months ago for a fiscal year that began more than 7 months ago. The wait for a full budget has hurt school districts, nonprofit agencies, and many others across the Commonwealth. We'll focus on both in this edition, starting with education. And on Wednesday, Governor Wolf visited the Clairton Education Center. One of his hosts there would have been Rich Livingston, who is the president of the Clairton City School Board. And Rich, first off, welcome to the program. And second of all, tell me something about what brought the governor to Clairton. Why?
Well, Clairton's an unusual school district, Pat. We have a $15 million budget, of which only $2 million is from local funds. The rest of our budget is from finance from states and federal funds. So when the state does a budget or doesn't do a budget, it affects us directly. So that when the state failed to pass their budget this year or failed to get a budget agreement, we have been living on borrowed time and borrowed funds until January when the governor released emergency funds. As we told the governor today, we have enough money to last us till the end of April, and then we'll have to borrow another $1.5 million to last us until the end of the year. So he came to show the Commonwealth what basically this budget impasse has done to the school districts.
Okay, now Clairton, it's just the city of Clairton. Is that a problem, the fact that your district is so small?
Well, any district said we have approximately 800 kids in our district, which it's not a problem. It's just that we have challenges that we have to face to make sure that we offer our students the same course level and academics that our neighboring school districts, our larger neighboring school districts do. So it's challenging, but we do it quite well. So we're meeting that challenge.
Now, you had said earlier that Clairton was proactive about its situation. This was, of course, back last year when I was still covering occasional meetings with the old Daily News, that the district had been proactive about dealing with what has turned out to be a extended budget shortfall. What all did Clairton do, and did that stretch out the time that you could do without an influx of state funding?
Well, what Clairton does every year, because we're has such a small tax base, is we take what's called a tax anticipation note, and that was $2.2 million. We do that to hold us over until state funding flows and our tax money comes in. So we did that again this year, anticipating that the budget stalemate would probably last until right before Thanksgiving, which that's what everybody told us was going to happen. So when the budget was not passed before Thanksgiving, we were a little bit hurting there for money, but our business manager, who was excellent, was able to make payroll until the end of December. At that time, Governor Wolf gave us or released the emergency funds of $4 million. So
that's from
that
the
was
line item veto.
relief.
The from the budget there was line item, but did allow some funding to come out.
Right.
How much did Clairton get, and how much would you normally have gotten at this point?
We would probably get a total of, I think it's approximately $6 to $7 million for the whole year. And prior, so you would figure we would have probably got at least half to a little bit more than half of that money by this time. So it would probably be around $4 million. But what occurred is all the time we didn't have that money coming in, we had to make that up with borrowed money, so that has to be paid back.
How has the district coped with this? I mean, have you had to cut programs? Have you had to curtail anything so far?
Well, no. What the district has done, we have not cut one program, not laid off one teacher. We've done what we do every year is we make things work. What we've done is we've, through our business manager, the district was able to identify key things that needed to be paid, like salaries, anything for the safety of the students, electric bill, water bill, gas bill to keep the building going. Anything else, our vendors have been very, very patient, and she's paid those bills on a rotating basis. So 1 month the IU may get paid, the next month they may not. That's the way it works. And so far, everybody's been very patient with that. I don't know how much longer they're going to be patient with it.
Of course, Clairton is represented by State Senator James Brewster and by State Representative Mark Gergely.
Yes.
Both are Democrats, but how much of a factor have they been as far as the situation concerned, your end or Harrisburg's end, as far as you can tell?
Well, Jim Brewster and Mark Gergely, as chief of staff, have been in constant contact with us. Jim, personally, I met with him on Saturday along with Mark Gergely. They've kept us in the loop of what's going on in Harrisburg. They've been great advocates for us in the Clairton School District. They've really fought for us. But again, they're in the minority in Harrisburg, so it's very difficult to get anything done when you're in the minority.
You formerly were in the district where Rick Saccone is the state representative, and he is a Republican. Obviously, you no longer have him as a representative, but has there been any communication involving Mr. Saccone?
Mr. Saccone has not contacted the school district since he was removed, or since we were removed from his district. And so I have no contact with him.
Of course. Clairton City School District, of course, right now, your district is involved in a whole lot of other things beside watching the budget in Harrisburg. Is there anything that stands out that the district is doing that perhaps you'd like to talk about at this stage? Maybe not to change the subject, but just to tell people that Clairton is still doing what you do.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you for the time for doing it, because we don't often get that, Pat. But Clairton School District is unique, and I'll tell you why. We, for years, have been maligned because of our test scores. And they've always said that we were an underachieving school. But the last 3 years, our test scores have continually increased to where we are not only competing with our neighboring districts, we're scoring better than they are. And for a school district that has 83% aid ratio and is 80% minority, that's pretty much unheard of. So we're not only good in sports now, we're also good in academics. And that's what makes me really proud of the school district, that we're moving along and trying to get our academics in order and trying to make sure when a kid graduates from Clairton, he has an education similar or comparable to our neighboring districts.
And you do know, it's good you mentioned that. Clairton, of course, is well known for its football team, which has been one of the powerhouses in Pennsylvania. But obviously, your district is doing many things beyond the final whistle, the final gun for the football season. Are there events going on in Clairton right now that stand out that you may wish to talk about?
Well, right now we're in the process. We're having the African American History Month in February. The school district has been involved in getting our parents to come back into the schools. We've done what's called Muffins for Moms, Donuts for Dads. We've had great participation. We've had over 400 parents come in both of those events. We're making sure that our building is opened and active in the community. This year is the first year that our gym, which we only have one, so it's very difficult to schedule. Every night of the week, our gym is going to be used for some type of community activity, basketball camps, open gyms, and that sort of thing. Our music department makes sure any kid that wants to play an instrument plays it for free. The school board went out and bought $30,000 worth of instruments a couple years ago, so that if you have a child that wants to play a horn or a saxophone, they can do that, and parents don't have to worry about renting them from one of the stores that are in the neighborhood.
Richard Livingston, who is the president of the school board in the Clarendon City School District. And Rich, thank you once again for joining us on this edition of the Clunan File. My second guest in the studio is John Lydon, CEO of Auberle and chairman of the Greater Pittsburgh Nonprofit Partnerships Advisory Team. First of all, Auberle, I mean, we did mention it at the beginning of the program, John, but just very briefly, a little bit about Auberle, if you would.
Well, Auberle's headquartered in McKeesport, serves over 3,100 children and families in 8 counties in southwestern Pennsylvania in a wide variety of services. About 40% of the youth are out of their home in foster care or group homes, and 60% of them are served in their homes and in their communities.
Now, Auberle is faith-based. I know there's a very strong Catholic influence, but you deal with people of all religious persuasions, correct?
Yes, both in service and in people who work with us.
And as we mentioned, John is the chairman of the Greater Pittsburgh Nonprofit Partnerships Advisory Team. That partnership is a coalition of more than 400 nonprofit organizations in 10 southwestern Pennsylvania counties, seeking to deliver a unified voice on emerging public policies that positions the nonprofits to be a collaborative driver of social change. And obviously, the state budget has something to do with nonprofits on all levels. Am I right?
For sure, Pat. It's a huge influence.
Tell me, give me some examples.
Well, what happens in the state budget, nonprofits like Auberle have a mission, and we go forth and we serve our mission working with at-risk young people and their families. Then the government says, hey, could you take over a function or responsibility that we have? For example, emergency shelter when youth are removed from their home. And if you do this, we will fund you for that service at a certain level. So there's a promise between the government and the agency to do the function and receive some reimbursement. Now, Auberle, similar to the other nonprofits in the Greater Pittsburgh Nonprofit Partnership, still has to raise significant monies to put that service at a level that we're comfortable with and to be successful. So for Auberle, it means we raise about $1.4 million a year over and above any support that the government gives us. So part of the service we render is subsidized by the government to the extent that it takes over a government function.
Now, on Tuesday, your partnership expressed disappointment, quote, that Pennsylvania's leaders reached the deadline for the fiscal year 2016-2017 budget proposal, while the budget for fiscal year 2015-16 is only partially completed, unquote. The partnership called the governor's current proposal, quoting again, ambitious and predicated on passing the bipartisan compromise that fell apart at the end of calendar year 2015, unquote. What does all that mean?
Well, what it means is, for the first time in Pennsylvania history, the governor has presented a budget statement for next fiscal year at a time when we don't have a completed budget for the current fiscal year. The state fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30. So we're 7-8 months into the fiscal year, and we still don't have a budget. We have part of a budget, to the extent it wasn't line item vetoed by the governor, but there's still a significant gap, and we don't have the revenue in Pennsylvania to balance the current year's budget, and yet now we're talking about the budget that would begin July 1, 2016 and go to June 30, 2017.
The governor, by the way, we talk about the compromise. I want to talk a little bit about that compromise. In fact, when you go online and you see the governor's proposal, they talk about an assumed budget. The governor's press secretary, Jeffrey Sheridan, told me that the assumed budget refers to a $30.8 billion compromise agreement reached between the governor and legislative leaders in December. It passed the state Senate by 43-7, but did not get a vote in the state House, and there's a variety of reasons. For one thing, a reputed refusal on the part of House Democrats to agree to liquor and pension reform as part of the deal. Instead, the Republicans in State House and Senate sent the governor a $30.3 billion plan, similar to one the governor had rejected earlier in the fiscal year. The governor line itemed the veto items in that plan. And when we're talking about the line iteming, have you gotten any funds from this line item vetoed budget?
Yes. The bulk of Auberle's funds came through the line item that's referred to as county child welfare money. So in January, we began to receive the bulk of funding owed to us by the government. At that point, we were owed a little over $4 million for the first 6 months of the year.
Now, Auberle continues. You certainly have other means of funding. Can you give me some idea of what all you get in terms of funding? I know the Pauline Auberle Foundation is certainly part of it. Where do you get your funding from?
Well, we get it from a variety of sources. To the extent we're doing the government's job, we're supposed to get that money from the government. We get support from the foundation community. As I mentioned, we raise about $1.4 million of private donations to really deliver the quality that we expect in our programs. We get some federal money, although a lot of that flows through the state. And as long as the state budget is held up, the federal money doesn't come through either. We also get some money for that's paid for fee-for-service for mental health services and drug and alcohol counseling and things of that nature. So we try and package a variety of funding sources to be able to deliver the need that our clients need to succeed in life.
Now, in discussing bringing you on here today, John, I was reminded of a couple of ventures that Auberle is involved in, and tell me about those ventures, if you would. That you've just begun 2 new ventures, I think, one in Pittsburgh, I think, and tell me about
Right.
them.
Well, we started 2 new ventures in the last couple months. One of them is we've taken over in Allegheny County the care of youth that are between the ages of 16 and 24 and have spent time in the foster care system. Across the country, the outcomes for those youth as they leave the system is really pretty abysmal. Auberle has run a program for part of those youth and has been very successful at it. The county has now asked us to assume that responsibility for all the youth. It's a voluntary program. About 1,500 Allegheny County youth will be eligible for that. We are building and finishing in the next week or two a center in downtown Pittsburgh where 30 other partners will co-locate with us and work with Auberle to render whatever services those youth need. For example, graduating school, getting their GED, housing. Some of those, about 200 of those youth are homeless. So we'll be able to arrange for shelter. They won't be sheltered there, but we'll have people there who run shelters who can arrange that. Food, legal services, medical care, whatever the youth need to be able to advance. The second venture that we're involved in, we've been asked by the federal government to run a program they call Youth Build. It's part of our Employment Institute. We have 7 nationally recognized certifications that we teach young people in order to move into jobs where the certifications are in short supply in this area. This Youth Build will be an 8th. certification, and it will be in construction. And the youth, as part of the program, will not only learn about construction, again, we have partners with us, but they will actually build low-income and subsidized housing to serve the people of the region while they're learning work ethic and the skills needed to work in the construction industry.
You said 8 certifications. What is a certification?
Other certifications include HAZWOPER, which is an environmental remediation certification, ServSafe, which is part of our culinary program that teaches youth to prepare food, but ServSafe is a government-required certification that at any point that a food service operation is open in Pennsylvania, somebody on the premises must be ServSafe certified at all times. We have OSHA certification for working in a variety of industries. We have certified nursing assistance program. We have a customer service program. We have a IT help desk certification. And I think I'm forgetting one or two that in that group, but it's a wide variety. The key to it is we don't do a certification until we have connection with an employer who will hire the youth when they complete the program, and it's a certification that's in short supply in Western Pennsylvania. The Workforce Investment Board tells us that despite unemployment in the area, there are 40,000 chronically unfilled good-paying jobs in Western Pennsylvania. A little less than half do not require a college education. So we kind of target that area to fill that need.
It's rather ironic. You are involved in filling these jobs, and of course we're in McKeesport, which has had its ups and downs economically over the years. Would you say that, besides the irony I'm bringing to mind here, how has McKeesport, the Montauk region, benefited from these certifications?
Well, they've benefited significantly because in the certifications, we don't restrict it to youth, quote unquote, in the system. We've served a lot of community youth. This summer, we did a Learn and Earn program with the county for summer jobs for young people. So we were given about 30 summer jobs that we brought young people into, and we also trained them in work ethic. Well, several of those jobs we arranged to be part of the city of McKeesport and jobs in the city of Duquesne, actually working for the government to give young people a feel for what kind of jobs the government has, what kind of needs that those communities face and work on. So the communities have benefited in that context, but a large number of youth that young people between the ages of 16 and 25 that we've helped in that program are from the Mon Valley. Maybe they have a gap in their education, maybe they haven't been able to find work, and we create these opportunities, first of all, to teach work ethic. We have a nationally recognized digital work ethic badge where an employer, we don't just tell you this person has work ethic. You can go online and actually look at the type of work they've done. There's video on there, there's photos for that particular person. If somebody has a drug and alcohol or a mental health issue, we have those programs licensed by the state to be able to help people overcome that. And then we have the certification that says to an employer, when you leave the Auberle Employment Institute, you not only have the certification, you're certified to be drug-free, you've already passed the drug test, and you've demonstrated work ethic actually working for us.
John, looking ahead, Auberle, of course, has programs on a regular basis, events, I should say. I mentioned the annual meeting some time back. I know there is other events down the line. What's up and coming for Auberle at your home base in McKeesport, for instance?
Well, beginning of April, Pat, we have our annual All-Star Banquet, which will be at Stratago's up in North Huntington. We usually have over 300 people there. It gives an opportunity for people to see the work that we do. The All-Stars are the youth and the families that have made major accomplishments. They're recognized there. We recognize Foster Parents of the Year. There's a huge demand for people to foster, particularly teens. As a matter of fact, in Allegheny County, the community with far and away the biggest disconnect between number of youth who could be in foster care and homes to place them is McKeesport, people within the McKeesport School District. So we honor and recognize what those families and those youth have accomplished, and usually there's not a dry eye in the house, and it's all about the impact of the children, and it's not a fundraising event, it's an opportunity to recognize success for the people we serve.
John, if one wants to contact Auberle, how does one do so?
There's a lot of ways. People can call us at 412-673-5800. They can access us on our website, which is www.auberle.org. And there's a lot of opportunities there to get involved and to get information about what we do. Those are probably the two easiest ways to connect with us.
John Lydon is the CEO of Auberle, a faith-based agency dealing with troubled children and families in McKeesport, and he is the chairman of the advisory team for the Greater Pittsburgh Nonprofit Partnership. And I want to thank also, once again, Rich Livingston, who was on this program as well today, the president of the school board in the Clarendon City District. And while the 2015-16 budget remains up in the air, the process of passing a 2016-17 budget indeed is underway, with the State House scheduling hearings beginning February the 22nd in Harrisburg. The absence of the daily news, we have brought that up on so many occasions, once again today. It includes the sad fact that some passings will not get noticed, even with other sources available, including the daily list you may find at tubecityonline.com. One passing that crossed our desk this week was that of Jack Brusick, age 88, who opened the Elbow Room 59 years ago in McKeesport's 10th Ward. The location along West 5th Avenue, just over the Jerome Bridge, was legendary for more than one reason, such as the ever-frequent overflow of catch basins during rainstorms. But inside the Elbow Room, for at least one recent mayor of McKeesport, as I can recall, the Elbow Room served as a retreat for pizza after city council meetings, and many other parties took place there as well. According to a history on the restaurant's website, Brusick wanted to create a true neighborhood, family and friends kind of place, and many would say he succeeded. Requiescat in pacem. Another site I'll commend to you is monvalleyhappenings.com, monvalleyhappenings, monvalleyhappenings.com. Former Daily News Lifestyles editor Carol Frazier's mix of church news, society matters, and features. One feature there is a list of the fish fries available as we move through the season of Lent. Our purpose is to focus on issues of interest in Pittsburgh's southeastern suburbs, and we've now done 3 editions of the Clunan File. It's been a privilege to come into your homes on a number of stations over the weekend, of course, including WEDO, WKHB, and WKFB. If you wish to know more about the Clunan File or have an idea for a program, please contact me. You can do so by snail mail at 1918 Lincoln Highway, North Versailles, 15137, or you may email me at pcloonan55, that's PCLOONAN 55 at gmail.com. I'm Pat Clunan. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to The Clunan File, a public affairs presentation of 94.1, 620 KHB, 97.5, 770 KFB, 810 WEDO, and 103 KVE.